An I24 News special report. Photos obtained exclusively by I24 News show Iranian companies sanctioned by the United States over ties to the Revolutionary Guard Corps have recently begun unloading shipments at Syria's Latakia port. Now, the activity is raising suspicions that the dormant maritime trade route is being revived and exploited for weapons smuggling. These photos, taken as recently as last week, show tractors produced by the Iranian tractor manufacturing company being unloaded at Latakia port. Now, according to the Intelli Times, in October 2018, ITM was added to the US sanctions list after being identified as belonging to the extensive network of the Basij Force, a paramilitary arm of the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And I24 News defence correspondent from our French language channel, Matthias Inbar, joins me with the exclusive details from our Tel Aviv studios. And with me here in studio, Iran expert Meir Javedanfar. Matthias, of course, we'll begin with you. What do these photos reveal? What more can you tell us?
Actually, this pics that you saw actually seconds ago, you can see tractors, normal tractors. They're a result of an agreement between Iranian regime and the Ministry of Agriculture in Syria, which is actually not so important. What it is important that that company is under control and sanctions by the US Treasury for being actually led by Basij, which are the military forces of the Iranian regime. And we can ask, actually, beyond these tractors, could it be that Iran changed its strategy and trying to smuggle by sea arms and military techniques? That's our question, main question, because we could see actually in the past that they try by ground, by air, and why not coming by sea?
Sure, but when you reached out then to official response from defence sources, what was said to you?
Actually, I've asked, of course, the question to the Ministry of Defence, and they said we have no comments on that issue, which reveals a lot actually. When you get used to these kind of answers in Israel. I've contacted also ex-CIA official Norman Roll, who dealt with Iran for so many years, and he said that this issue could be really, really realistic. The problem is that when you go through the Red Sea, you'll probably be under control by Egypt, Israel, of course, and United States or British services. So he just said we need to be aware of that tried by Iran.
Now, as you alluded to earlier, Matthias, this isn't new, not now, in terms of Iranian activity in Syria. We've seen civilian aircrafts being used to allegedly smuggle weapons into Syria by Iran. But also it's sea smuggling in general has been used in the past. Tell us more about that.
Yes, of course. Iran tried in the past to, and once again, to use civilian facilities to smuggle weapons such as, you remember, Karen A, a boat in 2002 that was supposed to go to Gaza Strip, which 4,000 tons of guns. And also another example, just more recently, actually, the boat Close Sea, which was in March 13, 2014. And the Shayetet 13, the commander of the Navy, Israeli Navy, just took control of the boat. Inside the boat was missiles, Iranian missiles, on a civilian boat. The final destination was Gaza Strip once again.
All right, Matthias Inbar, thank you for those exclusive details. Let's move into studio here. Meir Javedanfar, patiently waiting. Thank you, Meir. Talk us through now what this could mean then about Iran's strategy moving forward as Syria moves into a more future-focused view.
I think first and foremost, the Iranians are trying to improve their economic stance in the country. We see that, Syria is one of the few countries where IRGC and Basij-affiliated companies can invest in without any concern. Other countries would not let them anywhere near them, but in Syria is one country where they could do that. On the other, I think, yes, it's presumably, we can safely be assumed that the Iranians are looking to develop new routes, perhaps for weapons as well. We have to wait and see, and perhaps, this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu said recently. He said that we would inspect Iranian ships breaking oil sanctions, but maybe that Israel might start inspecting Iranian ships breaking other sanctions, although we don't know yet. We have to wait and see.
So what does this then mean for Israel dealing with the Iranian threat?
First and foremost, your report didn't show any weapons being supplied, not yet. So first and foremost, for what we know, and this is a very much part of Iran's plans, Iran wants to overtake Turkey and Russia in Syria as Assad's biggest trading partner. And these are companies from the IRGC and the Basij who are very much trying to increase their influence in Syria and also increase their exports. But on the other hand, yes, Iran wants to increase its naval presence in Syria, but it's not easy. When you're a big ship bringing, if you're going to bring weapons, you're going to be exposed to all sorts of dangers if there's another country who wants to disrupt those or to destroy those. So I think this is an option that Iran wants to reserve. What I would say, I think the Latakia port is more important for Iran in terms of its future gas projects. I think Iran in the future will want to export gas to Europe. And I think Syria's coastline, the Mediterranean coastline, will be ideal for it.
In terms of course, its economic ambitions, trying to circumvent those US sanctions that have been reimposed on it after the US withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal. We've now seen the wrapping up of Iranian President Hassan Rouhani's trip to Iraq. What would you say are the biggest take-homes from that visit?
I think the Iraqis are. I think the Iraqis are going to continue to deal with Iran because the waivers on the sanctions are going to expire soon, on the oil sanctions. I think the Iraqis are going to continue dealing with Iran. 40% of Iraq's supplies of electricity is supplied by Iranian gas. No country can cut that off. We wouldn't do it if we were in their shoes. But I think on the other hand, Iran faces some serious competition when we talk about economy. As much as the beautiful words from Iraq, the Iraqis have shown preference for Turkish products. And also perhaps investment from Saudi Arabia in the future.
What about, though, US influence when it comes to Iraq and how that could impact Iranian and Iraqi economic relations?
I think that's limited, to be honest with you, Tracy. The Americans, when they left Iraq, on the one hand, they left Iraq in 2011. On the other hand, they promised something. There was I remember last year, a conference to collect $88 billion for reconstruction of Iraq. Not even half of that has been collected. I think the Americans will pressure the Iraqis, but the Iraqi government's room for maneuver, it's going to be limited because no Iraqi politician is going to risk losing 40% of the country's electricity by cutting off ties to Iran.
Very, very briefly, do you believe that this visit by Rouhani to Baghdad was a message to US President Donald Trump?
I think it's a message, but its impact is limited because Iran is facing one of the biggest, his government's facing a massive deficit. They've had to also merge some of the banks, loss-making banks. So there are bigger issues at home waiting for Mr. Rouhani.
All right, Meir Javedanfar.